Welcome, brothers and sisters, my name is Eros and I am the Doll Maker. Today we will be talking about the external planets, also maybe better known as Trans-Saturnian planets, for our magical system. Now, these planets are not a part of every classical tradition, and they are very rarely present in most of the spell work we can find in our grimoires, because these are planets that are not visible with the naked eye. So usually, since we need to look at them through our modern technology, those traditions that are concerned by these planets has been updated with the progressive discovery. So, as usually, we will go with our step-by-step approach, and we will take into consideration the main correspondences of the planets. We will take into consideration the sigil or the sigils related to these planets, and we will try to analyze some interesting notes about these planets. And maybe we will do a brief comment on the single planets one by one. Now, please do remember that we are talking about astrological planets and not necessarily astronomical planets. So, in this case, I can't quite quote herbal correspondences or crystal correspondences, because these planets are very distant from us in their intrinsic nature. So instead of giving our usual herbal and crystal correspondences, we will talk about the energy expressed by the nature of the planet, the many aspects of the planet, instead of those correspondences and instead of archetypes. So, without further ado, let's start with Uranus. So, we are seeing on screen two sigils right now. The first one, both are not a classical alchemical symbol. The first one is a fusion of the sigil of Mars and the sigil of the Sun. But my favorite approach to this planet through a sigil is instead the second one, a sigillized version that could be related to the name of William Herschel, an astronomer that discovered the planet Uranus in 1781. Now, Uranus is related to the Sephira of Zahar into the Kabbalah, and the main correspondences of Uranus are transformation, so change, transforming change, and especially transformation from one state to another one through the correspondence with the heart, transformation through crossing the abyss, and also developing the ability to transform, and why not also transforming our points of view, and also inner change. In this sense, transformative insight. But Uranus has a very large scale effect usually. So, talking about transformation, we are also in the sphere of Uranus talking about social transformation, especially rebellion, revolution, and the pursuit of freedom. Great upheavals in society or in countries of any sort, and not simply political statements, which are usually broken promises from the start. So, in this relation with great upheavals and great social transformation, Uranus, just like those events, is usually in his energy shocking, unexpected, and often sudden. The last correspondence we will take into consideration for Uranus is genius. Genius expressed into innovation, expressed into technology, often unexpected in his energy, because innovations and ideas are an earthquake in our way of living, usually great innovations. And sometimes these energy can be seen as odd or strange, and we should take that into consideration, because of course between genius and madness there's a thin line, and this is our main suggestion, because we should be careful how much we tend to this energy before we fall into insanity, into madness. Now, let's quote a few positive aspects of the energy of Uranus. The first one is, of course, being spontaneous or having confidence in the future, pursuing freedom, and having a balanced idea of justice, if you get what I mean. On the negative side of Uranus, we find instead impulsiveness, chaos, insensitivity, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and also, unfortunately, sometimes apathy and isolation. Now, the origin of the name Uranus comes from the Greek. He is a god, also more often than not known as Kronos, father of Saturn, son of Gaia, former of the elements, and the first divine ruler of the elements in the Greek tradition. In the Roman side of things, Kronos was later translated, if you want, syncretized would be the correct word, into Celius. But if we want to go forward with our analogies from one god to another, we can also, stretching a little bit, find some correspondences with the Egyptian god Shu, separator of the higher spheres from the material ones through the abyss. So we again find a correspondence with the Sephirah of the heart. But if you want to go even further from Shu, the god of the skies, or in some tradition the god of air as an element, in other interpretation, we may even find some correspondences with the Mesopotamic god Anum, also known as An or Anu. Then, let's get to the Trans-Saturnian planet Neptune. You will find a sigil here somewhere. And again, is not a classical alchemical symbol. It's a sigillized version of the trident of the god Neptune. Neptune was, as a planet, was discovered in 1846 and is related usually, almost always, to the Sephira of Chokhmah. And sometimes, if you are studying the Kabbalah, you may also see Neptune related to the Hebrew letter Shin, because they, as you can clearly see, they are both trifurcated. Now, for the correspondences, for Neptune, we will start with vision, especially inner vision. So, the skill to create and recognize inner images, or developing our imagination from the inside, training our imagination and, in a sense, our psychic powers. Also, in this sense, through vision, Neptune is also related to divination, but especially in a specific kind of divination, which is prophecy through inner vision. The second correspondence we will take into consideration is wisdom. So, spiritual development, and if you want, creative wisdom, exploring many paths to find yours. Also, knowledge used to transcend the material in the sphere of Neptune, of course, connecting this way to our true will. The last correspondence we will take into consideration is, forgive me the stretch, is that Neptune is a very absorbent planet. So, very related to empathy, absorbing others' emotions, but also confusion through these absorbing of others' emotions. Absorbing random energies is always a little bit dangerous, and especially occurrent in the sphere of Neptune, which can lead also to obsession, addiction, and in a sense can lead us into a mind labyrinth, a mind daze, if you want, or to fall into the traps of devotion on a side and delusion on the opposite one. Now, some positive aspects of Neptune are gaining inspiration from imagination, or having this clear visualization, this clear inner vision through imagination, even if unexplained, if you get what I mean. Having this inner clear vision. Also, of course, on a more relatable note, innovation, being innovative. On the negative side of Neptune, we find sometimes ourselves being lost in fantasies or reveries, or being lost in illogical obsession and addictions, or even worse, being unable to keep up with reality. This is a negative expression of Neptune. Now, the origin of the name of Neptune are, of course, from the god Neptune in the Roman tradition, which is a clear syncretic transformation of the god of the seas, Poseidon from the Greek tradition, but we may even find a correspondence with the Egyptian goddesses Nunet, which is the snake-headed goddesses of primordial waters, and of course also of the Nile as a branch, as an extension of the primordial waters. But if we were to stretch a little bit further, we may even find a correspondence with the Babylonian goddesses Tiamat, the primordial goddesses of the ocean and of salted water, which in my interpretation is more often related to the primordial chaos. Often she is depicted as a dragon, or a multi-headed dragon, or a sea serpent. Then, allow me to talk you about Pluto. Now, again, we are seeing two symbols. Those are both, again, not classical alchemical symbols. The first one may be the sigillized version of the initials of Pluto as the name of the planet, or they may be the sigillized version of the initials of Percival Lowell. I hope I got the pronunciation right, which was an astronomer that was extremely important in the discovery of Pluto in 1930, year in which actually Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto. The second one is a more sigillized version, getting toward some of the most prominent alchemical traditions. Now, a funny note on the side, forgive me. At the time, planets, newly discovered planets, needed to be named in a mythological way. And in that specific case, Venetia Burney, which was an 11-year-old woman, told her grandfather her idea of the way in which these planets should be named. Her grandfather passed the information, suggested the information to the Lowell Observatory, and in the end, it was actually chosen her idea. So, she actually named these planets. Getting more serious again, the Sephira to which Pluto is related is Kepher, the one divine, the origin of the eternal light, the absolute, if you prefer. We will see again three main correspondences. The first one is termination. Pluto is extremely representative of the end of things. Also, when we see the end of things as unnecessary, is necessary in the greater scheme of things. Through these correspondence with termination, we also find in the energy of Pluto the necessity of extinction as a mean of evolution, and also the necessity of extinction in our general formation. So through Pluto and in Pluto we find our drive to break up with older systems, even if not completely. And we understand death not only as a limit, but as a spiritual transformation, as a phase of transformation. The second main correspondence of Pluto is renewal. So change, even extreme change, a change that is necessary to go forward, transformation for the better, toward the better, toward a better way. Even if this renewal, even if this transformation is prizeful for us. So, an healing transitioning either away from the energy of Thanatos or through the energy of Thanatos. And in a sense also, on a separate note, transitioning from extremes or in between extremes. Then, let's talk about the third and last correspondence, which is control. The control, this planet is suggesting us and demonstrating us the control that is necessary to, if you want, surf the waves of change, in a sense, keeping balance between keeping balance in our transition through extremes and from extremes, remembering ourselves that our deepest nature lies in primordial chaos, and then we need to control this chaos to weave our destiny. Also connecting with the higher source or the eternal light, however you want to call her. Now, some positive aspects of the energy of Pluto are constant exploration, also constant change in our life and within ourselves, acknowledging change in our life and in others, but especially into ourselves, and having a constant, if you want, need for innovation in all those aspects. Also, control of the nature of this change without getting toward extremes. Because of course the negative aspects of Pluto may include, but are not limited to, fanaticism, extremism, uncompromisingness, but also thirst for power or abusing our power. Now, the origins of the name of Pluto we discussed before are of course also related to Pluto, the god of the underworld for the Romans, derived from the Greek tradition god Hades, god of the underworld, but also Pluto, god of richness. Is very difficult to give you more correspondences with other gods of other traditions, because of course the phenomenon of death is extremely complex and very rich of meanings. So it will not be completely clear translated into other traditions that have very different points of view, if you get what I mean. Now, in the end, please remember that these energies, these planets are extremely distant. So I will not give you correspondences like herbs or crystals. I suggest you to connect to these energies using sigils, but I recommend that you use them in your spell work always as a second planet, and only if you are extremely experienced. Even in that case, please do remember that these planets, these external Trans-Saturnian planets, Trans-Saturnian, forgive me, planets, are extremely slow movers. So their effect will be long-lasting, but actually manifesting your spell working could be extremely slow. So, of course, this is unless you want to unleash chaos or wreak havoc on your enemies, if you extremely need to do so, because they are all related in a way or another to change or chaos or extreme transformations, and they have extremely negative effects. Now, I am explaining these planets to you for the sake of your knowledge and to give you a better global, complete understanding of all the planets that we can call upon in our system of planetary spell work. But please be careful how and when you call upon these energies. I hope to have given you a more clear view of these energies, of these planets. I hope I will see you in the next series, and as always, may eternal lights shine upon you.